Hey guys, this is Philosophy of Ricky. The title of this bill will be the traditional roles of a father, and I have Asperger's and I have a speech impairment. I'm 24 years old, and for this, I would like to talk. I begin to feel like today's society, we begin to romanticize a father, and we and like for example, like the movie Skyscraper, starring with Dwayne Rock Johnson, um, and watch this commercial with Dove Men and talks what it's like to be a father and having kids, and it seems like it's not really connecting for young men, especially for me, because it seems like what's the point of having kids, having a wife, where she can leave you with another man and can take all you have, your kids, your money. And it seems like for a lot of men they're opting like not to get married and just, live single lives. Um, you know, it's not really that an ideal lifestyle to be a father. Oh, mom, do you have something to say?
Well, no, you don't have to turn the camera, but hello everybody. I'm Michelle Carter Douglas. This is my son Patrick, his first live broadcast. So we're gonna support the young voice. Um, as he said, this is the new show on the Ricky Lisa and Bride, the philosophy of Ricky. And Patrick is a survivor, and as he discussed, he's talked about the traditional roles of the father. So I'm going to sit back and let him talk as he looks into the camera and discusses this, because this is good. This is good. This is giving a voice to a voice. So you got this.
Um, I I watched this video on YouTube. I forget what it's called, but they were talking about um, people are not having kids as they used to, and that's going to be a problem with older people because not many young people will pay for like taxes, And I feel like Americans need to get more self sufficient because welfare only go for so far. Um, if people having less kids, that means less people take care of other people who can't take care of themselves, and we just need to get more self sufficient. And that's because unfortunately, I watched a lot of MGTOW videos where they kind of talk about the challenges of men, particularly. And like I mentioned, like a woman can leave you with someone and can take everything you have, and it seems not a viable option for men nowadays. It seems like marriage is just, you know, like where life ends, and so many. And I have people in my family, like my cousin. She got married. She's about 24, and it's kind of a little bit depressing. It's almost like you're planning for a funeral if you think about marriage, because there's so much into marriage, and people just call it the superficial of marriage, happiness, kids, and it's not even worth it. And I hate to say it, but kids have been a burden. People's like, oh, I want kids for selfless reasons, and when they get them, um, it, you know, they could afford them and stuff. mean, kids are a lot of responsibility, especially for men, and especially if they get married and have kids. Usually, women get have a custody, and that'd be a lot hard for a man. And it's because of the justice system. They think mothers who have absolute rights over the kids. These just don't think about the fatherhood. I mean, father and stuff. Do you have any input, Mom?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Now that you make some interesting points, and I think that through life, we tend to look at certain situations as far as uh, the father's role. I do agree that sometimes, in some cases, that the father's rights are taken away or not considered, um, and then it becomes a legal battle, and then you have situations where sometimes the person trying to um, get partial custody, shared custody, whatever, um, do not have the resources. So I understand that. Now, I will say that marriage is a union, and that's why people have to choose their mate wisely. Not all marriages end in divorce. Not all marriages end in, a situation to where there are legal battles. There's the thing that they call uncoupling, which I think was introduced by Gwyneth Paltrow and her former husband, the lead singer of Coldplay. So, there's situations to where, if something does happen, the marriage sometimes does not work out. It can be done amicably, you know. However, you make a lot of good points. And I think, uh, this is a topic that you can further research, bring some things to the table to support your theory, and talk with your viewers about it. My question for you is uh, down the line, when you get to a certain place and you do meet someone, and that individual does capture your heart, will you be open to marriage?
I would say, as for now, I really do not know. It's because people want to say you have to choose the right one. The problem is it's beyond my power, because there's this always one chance that she will really effed up my life. Because I want to be an entrepreneur. And if I have all this money, she might say, well, I want a piece of the pie.
Mhm.
And she could literally wreck my life.
Okay, now let me ask you this. When you say wreck your life, what do you mean?
Um, really take all my, well, most of my possessions,
Okay,
money.
so this is where I would like for you to look at. What I'm hearing is that you have a fear of being hurt.
Well, also fear of losing my status.
Well, there is no status. I don't believe in that. There is no status. My thing is, and you will see. You understand what I'm saying? What God has for you, God has for you. The same thing. And uh, one of which I will say this much. When you take a wife, you will experience a love, and she will experience a love that a husband and a wife can have. And you will end up picking a mate that the both of you can build together. And with that being said, when you build, you achieve an empire. And there is no thing. To me, when you deal with different people that have that mentality, well, I want half. I'm taking this up. That's a spirit. That's a spirit of greed. So and then there's the spirit of fear. And you will get to a point in your life that you're not going to have that fear. You are going to be a terrific husband because you're getting yourself together now to be that husband, to be that support being for his family, to have a role of a father and a husband. And all of that comes under the umbrella of God. Because God, then there's Christ, then there's you, then there's your wife. And so basically, you know, you've seen different things on the internet of people going through divorces and stuff. When I divorced your father, I didn't ask for half. He didn't ask for half.
You're in the minority.
But you understand what I'm saying? When you deal with a minority of people, it's across the spectrum. When you look at life, there's always going to be a minority. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is this: um, minority rules. And what I mean by that is I'm going back to the scriptural base. When, the meek shall inherit the earth. And then also, I look at, in the scripture and different things where it says narrow, the narrow the path. So, minority rules. So, what I'm saying is your caution signs now are only walls because you don't want to be hurt. Don't let fear block you from your blessing. Now, I'm just going to say that because you're going to school, you're working, you're building. So, therefore, your mate, you will also choose to have a building spirit. And that's some of the things that's going to uh, intrigue you. That's going to catch your eye. When you see a person working, going to school, you have conversations with them. You say, "Oh, I want to buy a house. I want to do that too. I want to build a clothing company. Oh, I kind of want to do. I'm going to school for interior or fashion design. You understand what I'm saying? That's how you look at things. When you look across the board of people in the industry, entertainment business, being married multiple times or some, usually a lot of times their last marriage lasts longer. It's because you have come to know your likes, your dislikes, what you're building to, what you're building on, and who's going to be your helpmate. Yeah. See what I'm saying? So I think, you know what I'm saying? All of this and you communicating with your viewers, this is your first segment, I think is excellent. Do you have your book over there?
No, I could tell.
Wait a minute, look underneath that green notebook. That's all my.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing. Don't talk about it yet, but finish it. But you're going to introduce your book and stuff like that.
Okay.
And this is your first thing, and then make sure you let them know, when your next segment will be on Saturday at 11. But so with that being said, what do you think about now the situation about getting married?
I feel like because obviously I'm too young to think about it, but like we need to talk about the laws. How we need to change the laws that make it more favorable. Because let's say, for example, this a man marry a wife and they got divorced. no kids, she's entitled no money to us because usually for me I recommend the man should pay the bills, he should get the house because usually in this world, the one who pays the bills makes the rules, and and it makes it less complicated because if she helps pay the bills, then morally speaking, I mean, some could have titles some money, but if he pays the bills, you know, then she's entitled to no money. If they have kids, that's making a little bit more complicated. I was thinking, let them decide because I hate it when people look to the government for some answers. I would solve that between me and her. Give her some money and just enough to live on. And people and that's what I don't like about child support. I mean, they give kids like the more you get, the more they get. They
Well,
don't think about what's enough.
well, and see, and those are things that you'll later kind of understand once you go through life and take your journeys. On the topic about uh, your wife, one of the things in a household, there is no rulership.
No,
There is no, well, I'm just saying there is no, I make the money, therefore I make the rules. That's not how it goes. It's a partnership because, if you have children and you have a wife, she carried those children all those many months and went through all that labor to bring those children in the world. You want her to take care of your children, but you also have to allow her to have her own identity because
what do you mean by that?
Identity meaning if you select a wife who wants to be an interior fashion designer, whatever, and is building a thing, just because she has kids, you can't say, well, okay, that's stopping. Your obligation is to be at home, take care of kids, cook, clean, and whatever money I give you, I give you. You understand what I'm saying? Well,
I'm a little bit flexible with that because some people it's kind of, I don't mean to rush it, but some people might think, oh, I'm this guy, and women. I'm a little bit more flexible because let's say I have a wife, I like to cook. I want to be good at cooking, so maybe sometimes I cook, and it's gonna be more complicated because almost like what's the point, with that. Um, yeah, you're fine. Let me see. Let me think.
Go ahead, finish.
Let me see.
Yes, I'm coming over here to get in this conversation over here. So, this is an interesting topic. And what I'm going to say is because, his conversation, his views reflect some, people out there. And what I would like to say to my son and to the viewers out there is don't let fear hinder you from your blessing. You are conveying that you want to build a foundation for your household. Therefore, the individual you choose is also going to have that building spirit. And don't divide before you build. Because so many times, if you are looking like, okay, well, I'm going to get into this situation, but I'm not going to get this. This is hers. This is mine. This is hers. This is mine. This is for the kids. You're dividing. You understand what I'm saying? Division breaks down. You have to think of it like, okay, I want to have a foundation that there's a blanket of security for my wife, my children, and for me. And I want to choose somebody that we can get married, have children, and one day our kids be off, have their own families, and we can retire together and travel together. You understand what I'm saying?
I see. I see.
Right.
Like, let's say if I get married, have a wife, I just want, I'm the leader, she's the vice president, and my kids are the ball. And I don't mean as a cold way. I'm just saying I want there to be an order structure. And just because she's a vice president doesn't mean, she's dumb. I mean, I want her being very smart, even smarter than me, second in command, and even have like give her valuable opinions, and I might change my mind. I was like, okay, I may, but I just felt like there need, and some people say, well, there could be two leaders. That's stupid because you can't have two leaders. Imagine if there are two dictators in one country. There will be a war. There needs to be one leader and vice, president, basically. You know, first command, I mean, no, second command, that's how, my ideal, you know, order structure at home would be. And some may think I'm very traditional, which is ironically, um, I feel like for young men, you could be single for your whole life to be happy. And my problem with people say, well, you're not gonna be happy because you're gonna die alone because you have no woman, no kids. We're all gonna die alone. Think about it. I mean, we all go and die alone. Even you have this magical moment where all your loved ones will cry around you, your deathbed. You're dying alone.
Well, you know what, my son, this is the thing when you're talking, and you know what, it's people like him that come up with the philosophy. That's why I told him his show should be the philosophy of Ricky, because this is his thought. This is his own philosophy. But you know what? He is going to end up building a foundation and being a great husband and father. And he's the one that's going to get married and be married for scores. And that's going to have all these kids and grandkids surrounding him. You understand what I'm saying? He's the one, because that's how it always is.
Yeah, I'm dying alone.
No, because I'm going to tell you something.
I'm talking about realistically, I'm dying.
No, you're
alone.
not. I know what you're saying in the spiritual sense, but I'm saying no, because when we see, the thing of it is in our womb, we was breathed into our nostrils by Almighty God. He was with us. In our womb, He is with us. When we take our last breath in spirit, God is with us. So we do not die alone, for God is always with us. And when you have children, our children, there is no love that I've had when I had my kids. I began turning my life around. It's just a beautiful thing. And then when you love Your spouse, like I love his father, my kid's father. I love my kid's father. And I don't, after it's all said and done, I don't take that back because that was a good love. And out of that love, there was trials and tribulations, but out of that love came four beautiful live children. And, you know, I am internally grateful for that because you can't get it. This is a person that got his guard up. So, to my future daughter in law, who God is going to put in his life, I am getting Mr. Ricky together. That he is going to be the husband to help cook, to help clean. That's going to love and get together because there ain't going to be no rulership. Mama Douglas is going to see to this. Mama Douglas is getting him together to where it's going to be a union. Ain't no dictators behind them closed doors. Cause
no, I don't mean being a dictator.
No, I know that. I'm saying that there you go. See, already.
But who gonna raise the kids? I mean, we all gonna raise the kids. Why, man? Who gonna stay and watch the kids and be out to make the money?
Okay, and in these days, both can. You can hire a nanny. That's why you continue getting your higher education. You continue all of that so that you can build. There's people.
But how they gonna be educated?
Your children?
Yeah.
Look, that's where you start making your individual goals and plans. If you want your children to have homeschooling, go into a Montessori school, then that is your mindset. So you need to say, okay, well, I need to go to school for this because this will enable me to have this amount of income. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's the different things. So now is the time that, as JC puts it, start doing the blueprint. Start doing the blueprint. This is what I want in life. This is what I want to have for my children. This is what I want to have for my wife. Because being a single parent, me and my kids weren't able to take big extravagant trips. We went on vacations. We went to other states. So that's not an issue. I was not able to put my kids in private school, which would have been best for my children. I was not able to put my kids in dance and music and different things like that. But I'm working towards a foundation to where my grandchildren will be. So, because you do want your children going to private schools. I don't care who doesn't like it, who doesn't appreciate it, whatever. Private school is best. In public schools, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. There's a lot of dictatorship that goes on. There's a lot of preferential treatment that goes on.
Laziness and the whole system. Mm. But can I tell you, I know. I used to thought private schools are the best. Now, here's my main gripe. I would say they're better than public schools. Mm-hmm. I won't say they're the best. The reason why I say private school is a better version of public schools, that's not a good thing. Because when I thought private school, you can set up your own system. Like a lot of private schools, it's pretty much the same until you just have better teachers and stuff. I want there to be a school where you can teach kids a practical use of life, not no general education. I can't say I never thought that I would love science, and that's what I love about YouTube, especially when like they debate about whether God exists, how a world was created, and public schools they make science boring, and and teachers want to have more money, and you know, for like a word, they make learning a job. That's not national. I used to thought I'm a dumb person when I was in public school because I thought I don't know how to do math and science, but for all this time, I actually very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it's because sometimes public schools are not good for smart people. They're not good for independent, smart people because they teach you how to follow the herd. A lot of successful people, they do the opposite. They don't follow the herd. They do the opposite.
And I'm just going to say this too. And I think in our case, when I was homeless and I came here, um, there was a lot of discrimination that was going on because at that particular time, I just came out of a situation. Me and my kids were homeless. Patrick was in elementary school. So when I came here, uh, we were all kind of treated as the vagabonds. And, at that particular time, I was not employed just yet because I came here. I was trying to get myself together and get established. And so it was this thing to where uh, people had this thing that they felt I was not paying taxes. And therefore, I didn't pay them to educate my kids or whatever. And that was far from the truth because I've always been employed. I've always had a self-employment type of business. I've always worked. And so, but that's just again, where you go as, I think when you're dealing with uh, biases and um, traditional roles versus the non-traditional roles. And I think this is a very good topic because when we look at the traditional roles of the father, I hear you saying that this is the caretaker role. He is supposed to be the head of the household. And that is a very fitting topic because in the scriptural sense, that is what the Bible talks about. And I am kind of talking about the non traditional roles of the father, where I want my two sons to kind of take on both traditional and non traditional roles because the times is changing. God does not change, we as people change. And so I think that uh, with men and women, um, dealing with things of today, I think both roles of the fathers and the mothers have to take on both traditional and non traditional roles in order to succeed. Because when you are set in your ways, that leaves room for unhappiness and different things like that. Like, I want to see you, as the husband and the father, when it says as the traditional roles, I do want you to be that breadwinner. I do want you to be that support beam of the family. And I also want you non traditionally to always keep that salt of who Patrick Douglas is. Um, where you take time out to always maybe go golfing, do your hobbies, continue to write your books, because, when you're always stuck in that traditional sense, you always have these high expectations that are set, and that's leaves stress in. And when you choose a wife, as far as traditional roles, I do believe that as the mother, your presence is needed in the household setting, um, more than the father, and that's just the way it's always been. Because I think that traditionally, we as women, we're more talkative, we're more the nurturers, we're more of the communicators, And then when we are forced to take on more non-traditional roles, we have that, thing to where um, there's conflict. Like we got to go out, we got to go get the money, we got to do this, we got to do that. I can't talk to you, I can't listen to, things like that. And I think that what I'm raising, both my sons and my daughter to do is to have a compromising within uh, the designated roles of the household. And that is why I do agree with you, Patrick. Um, that I'm glad that you're taking this time to kind of know what your expectations are, and then work on that, because the one of which, once you get your education, um, get the job that you are looking for, and I believe in continuous education. Have your business, have your brand. Um, you become happier.
I, I was being very skeptical of nannies because I don't feel comfortable having kids with strangers for long periods of time because, like, I know because they're. I mean, maybe like especially with babysitters. I mean, nannies might be more professional, but I'm not very comfortable with nannies. Also, I think that what you mistook as fear, us just being very cautious because fear is like an irrational thing. Like, for example, even though the government is watching us, but us is that'd be paranoid if the CIA is following me everywhere I go. So I look over my sword. That's mostly anxiety, but what I'm cautioning is we need to come together and talk and like try to fix laws and court systems that like make it unequal. Like it's on the mother's benefit. You know, the, the female the female get all the benefits marriage, and men stuck with all the baggage. What's the point of having a kid if it's not yours? Technically, by law.
Well,
because if you think about it, like I'm not like getting like don't think I'm pro life or pro choice, but she can abort her kid, and but when in the moment she decided to keep the baby, the father, even though let's say the father don't want to have the baby, he's forced to pay for the baby.
Well, and I think that's a whole other topic, and I think that's a good topic to discuss next week.
Okay.
Which is the partiality in law. When it comes to the parental rights on fetuses. So I think that's a good topic to talk about next week.
Okay.
How often? Well, before we get to that, but so it's going to be his philosophy of Ricky will be every Saturday 11 a.m. right here on the Ricky, Lisa, and Bry YouTube channel. My youngest son, Brian, will be having his podcast as well. My daughter, Arlessa, their sister, will also be doing a live podcast. And then we'll be doing something collectively right here on YouTube. Going back on the traditional roles of the father, I then too would like this to be a personal journey that you're going to walk with God, and He's going to get everything together when it's time for you to take on that role. Because again, when you are grounded in who you are, you will uh, receive someone that is of um, a common interest. And again, you are looking for someone with a building spirit as you have a building spirit. And that goes with the scriptural sense of being equally yoked. And I was told
What's that mean?
Equally yoked is when two people are have common interest and they can and that's in the Bible, equally yoked. So, that's one thing. Um so I think this was a really good segment. Before you
But
close,
do
you
you think?
should.
But do you think marriage has become like it's not as prevalent as before, but it's still a problem. Like marriage has become the norm of true happiness, and that's why I'm totally
I
against
don't.
because this is one guy from YouTube. Even though I think he's more traditional, and he realized that different strokes are for different people. Not all. The problem is we have top of that. That's why people getting divorced. Because they thought, oh, I need to get married to be happy. Well, there's a lot of single people who are actually happy. And some people say single people have low sex life. I mean, that don't have good sex life as married couple. That's partially true because but single people are more varied. Because some people, yeah, they have poor sex life, but there's some single people who have excellent sex life, and married people are kind of stuck in the middle. Maybe later on in marriage, maybe close to not great of sex life. I mean, and also like marriage shouldn't be as I need to get married to be happy. You could be happy, be single, that it actually works with some people, and especially normally you gotta have kids to be happy. I mean, if I get married and have kids, I would say like you don't need a kid to be happy. And because if you said you need a kid to be happy, that's particularly dangerous because you have people make stupid decisions where okay, I need a kid to be happy, and they have a kid and like, oh god, I don't know, they're worse. Like for example, I used to have a dog. I thought a dog is, you know, great and all that, but then god dang, they got told me so much work. And kid, man, I mean, of course they're human, but
And you know what? Again, I think that is something that and I'm glad that you are talking about this and letting your views and opinions out there, because like how I raised my kids is always let's talk about what was behind closed doors. And so, Patrick, I would like for you to talk about who you are in general, real quick, and also let them know about your book.
oh, I published this book. It's called Adventures of Gurgle Boy. Um, it's available on Amazon.
Amazon.com. And then who's your publisher?
Crossroads. Her name is Sandra
Carrington Smith.
Carrington Smith.
And what's your book about?
Basically, it's about the main character. Well, actually, the parents of Jack. It's comedy. You know, my mom helped me wrote the book. Um, it's more of a comedy romance, but there's the. And I plan to wrote my next book, volume 2, next year.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And how much is the book? Mm-hmm. Just $9.99.
Yeah, $9.99.
Mm-hmm. So for just under 10 books on Amazon, you can really have an enjoyable read. Like I said, Patrick is a child abuse survivor. Um, he has Asperger's syndrome, which we all know that that's a form of autism. And Asperger's syndrome children are very highly intelligent. Um, Also, Patrick began writing this book in high school, which I was very very happy, and I came in. and basically, just kind of added a little bit, taken out some stuff, but this is his work, and it was a lot more comedy in here that I took out.
The original?
Yeah, some of the scenes.
Oh yeah.
But the one that what I liked about this is a romance story of an interracial couple who steps outside the boundaries and the typecasting, and also with the different characters in his book is about allowing themselves to kind of um, embrace one another in spite of their flaws. And I think this is what is beautiful about the world today. Um, so it's on Amazon.com for just $9.99. The paperback, and I believe the Kindle version is only $2.19. And the synopsis of the book: from the moment they meet during an outing at Central Park, the lives of a group of strangers begin to strangely intertwine in a series of heartwarming and seemingly futuristic events. But it is mere coincidence that draws these people together, or rather, a higher design. The Adventures of Gurgle Boy invites us to reflect on the strange circumstances that are the base of human connections, and reminds us of the importance to make time for friendship and love. So I think that this is a very, very good book by Patrick M. Douglas. Patrick M. Douglas. And the book is available right now on Amazon.com. Also, they have the Ricky, Lisa, and Bry coffee mugs that's available on that we have now. Uh, Ricky and his siblings will be having their own store shortly, so you'll be able to have a coffee mug if you choose to order it. That's coming soon. Uh, And do you have Brian's book behind you right there? Brian, Patrick has a brother, Brian Douglas, who has autism. He has a book out as well. All the books are published, Crossroad Books and Entertainment. You can find them at crossroadspublishers.com. And this is from My Heart to Yours, the hopeful journey of an autistic child. And this is from Patrick's brother, Brylan. This is a very good book, which is a compilation of his short stories and that he actually uh, started writing since the third grade. So, Patrick, you gonna conclude your segment?
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
All right. What do you say, Mr. Very good. Done.